we see that the fiat currencies are going to shit. It might not actually fully play out. There might not be a currency collapse, but it might be. So what I would say to the average Joe is no big deal. Take $20. Buy some Monero, buy some Bitcoin, play with it. When you go to a restaurant with friends, pay for them, collect money in Monero or with Lightning Wallet or anything. Just try it out, see how it feels. The technology is really simple. You got farmers in Guatemala to accept Monero, so average Joe should probably be also able to do it. I think coffee farmers are above average smart because they need to grow good coffee.
This week on Monero Talk is sponsored by Cake Wallet. Store, send, receive, and exchange your Monero and Bitcoin safely on iOS and Android too. Cake Wallet is open source, and you always control your own keys. And by StealthEX, an instant exchange where privacy is the top concern. Go to stealthex.io to instantly exchange between Monero and 450 plus assets without having to create an account or register, and with no limits, making StealthEX a simple way to purchase Monero with crypto anonymously. Monero Talk is also made possible from contributions by viewers and listeners like you. And supporting us is easier than ever. By typing in monerotalk.crypto in your monero.com or Cake Wallet send address field to send us a tip. This week on Monero Talk, Douglas Tuman interviews Juraj Bednar, Cypherpunk author, entrepreneur, hacker, Bitcoin OG, and Monero enthusiast. The two discuss why increasingly more people are attracted to cypherpunk ideals, Lunarpunk and surviving state attacks on crypto projects, emerging parallel economies, and why CBDCs can be bullish for Monero, how to attract crypto people to a country, institutional investment, El Salvador, how to get started with XMR, how to short fiat, and much more. Monero Talk starts now.
All right. Juraj, welcome to Monero Talk, man. Welcome back, I should say. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. I think it was well over a year ago. It might have been 2 years ago when we did the last one.
Yeah. I don't know. The time flew for the past few years, so who knows?
How do we introduce you? Can you introduce yourself, man? You create a lot of content. I don't want to leave anything off the list. So if you could give a quick pitch for yourself to those.
Yeah, sure. So my latest thing, I will start with that one, is a short ebook called Cypherpunk Visions and Trends 2023 to 2025. I'm a book author and an entrepreneur. Another book that will probably cover a little bit or talk about its content is called Cryptocurrencies: Hack Your Way to a Better Life. Other than writing books, I'm a co-founder of Paralelní Polis and Paralelná Polis, which also hosts Institute of Crypto Anarchy, and it's one of the probably first. I think it's a first place that was purely and still is purely run on cryptocurrencies. So fiat doesn't work there, and it's a cafeteria, co-working space, and an institute. We organize a few interesting conferences and other things like that. Other than that, I founded a few companies from various, I would say, IT fields, mainly security and of course crypto. So that's more or less about me.
I would say you're the closest thing that I know to a real cypherpunk. You actually don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. You're not just talking about these ideas, you're living them as well. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. I was when we started, and I was telling my friends and basically anyone who was willing to listen, and some people who were not willing to listen as well, to just encrypt the emails with PGP back in the 20 years ago or something like that, and everyone was looking at me like I was a crazy person. These encoded emails and stuff like that, and now I think cypherpunks are cool again, or finally we are cool. so it was not something you would bloat about. Oh, I'm cypherpunk. Oh, you're one of the weirdos. So yeah, we have our 5 minutes of not being considered crazy, not even fame.
Hopefully much longer than 5 minutes, right? Hopefully it becomes a permanent part of the culture moving forward. And I think you get to that in your book, Cryptocurrencies: Hack Your Way to a Better Life. You can summarize the book a little bit, but basically, I mean, you talk about how to practically use these things. You give a lot of insights into crypto from a technological standpoint, from a usability standpoint. How to actually use them on a day-to-day basis, and then you kind of talk about the cypherpunk culture, or the Lunarpunk culture. We can get into that, and how like you said, becoming more quote unquote mainstream, or getting its 5 minutes of fame, but ultimately you see it as probably always kind of being a niche thing, right? And that we shouldn't necessarily strive for it to be mainstream, that it's there. If you want to be a part of it, you can, and we shouldn't expect that all of society will join us.
Yes, I think I learned from the early cypherpunk days that then most people don't really care about these things like privacy and private contracts and all these things. So I don't think we actually have to kind of force people, or talk everyone to do our thing that we think is important. So I don't think it is mainstream, or we should push it to the mainstream. But what is happening is that an increasing number of people are finding these ideas useful, and kind of what is going on with the world. Many people will probably want to join, even if they didn't consider it something that is important. So, example, very very simple example, are people who. So many people talk about the unbanked, but they're doing pretty okay. They use cash, and they, of course, if they want to interact with someone over the internet. But there is this group of people that I call banked but pissed. When they have this experience, oh, my bank account was frozen again because I wired money to a stranger, and now they want all the documentation from me. And oh, we have frozen your bank account because you need to declare your source of funds. And there are a lot of people that are having a bad experience, especially with the banking system and financial institutions. So they see, okay, they're not hardcore cypherpunks that think that we need to change the world and have different money, but they just have a bad experience, and they come over because well, if you send Monero transactions, it goes through.
So I mean, do you see the true cypherpunks, that movement growing as well, just not growing as much as we might hope? Do you see it getting larger, or is it kind of already plateaued?
No, definitely. I think it's growing. There are many people being onboarded to Bitcoin, to Monero, to privacy as well. I really think that many people are having various not nice experiences. So it's sadly said, it's more out of the necessity than like a philosophical belief. What is also interesting is that a lot of original cypherpunks, I would say, that it's very interesting that there is this group of people who were all for encryption of communication, but when it comes to money, they're like, oh no, we need oversight, money laundering and so.
Yeah.
But financial communication is communication, so I don't see a difference. But there's especially in Europe with the hacker community. There is this event called the Chaos Communication Congress. It's amazing. It has been going on for 40 years, I think, and it's the largest European hacker conference. And there are like talks about Tor, about encryption, about hacking, breaking things, but you still cannot buy tickets with any kind of cryptocurrency. You still it's still like you would expect talks about things like Monero, like they should have a track or something, the official one. But no, it's like they have kind of these two separated worlds of communication anonymity when we're chatting, but then for money, we need to report and stuff like that. I don't want to put like all those people in a box. Of course, it's there's a lot of variety there, but there is this kind of interesting, cypherpunk, but not for money.
Yeah, I didn't realize even there at that conference. Like, so I've never been, would love to go. I was part of it virtually. Like I interviewed people that were there. It was a couple of years ago now. We did Monero Talk interviews with people that were there. So there were some people that were doing talks on Bitcoin and Monero. But you're saying overall they don't even really focus on it at all. Like they try to essentially ignore it, or
so. Part of it is because of the proof of work. It's in Germany, and I don't I don't want to make fun of Germany, but I think their national religion is Gaia worship and fighting for climate. So one of the things is it creates emissions. Another thing is how do we put it into accounting. To their credit, they allow people to organize their own tracks. So there has been actually you can basically set up your own stage with talks and everything, and we have done it, and I love the conference. So I hope they will they will let me in after this. But it's interesting, because it's kind of left-leaning, I would say. So one example was there's a vendor of Bitcoin ATMs that wanted to participate in the conference. And they were like, no, it's money, it's for profit, and that's not such a good idea. And when I was talking about it with some friends there, I looked from the staircase down, and there was this row of Erste Bank ATMs, and those are not for profit. It's just normal ATMs with bank cards. So it was kind of funny. But yeah, there is definitely, it's not like a unified ideology, and I think this is true with most kind of libertarian leaning ideologies, that everyone has their own opinions, and it's like herding cats. Copyright is good or bad, and freedom of using your body or not, and things like that. So there's a lot of variety.
In your books, And what was the short one? It was predictions of
visions and trends, Cypherpunk visions and trends. Yes.
Yeah. I don't think did you touch on politics at all? No, did you make any predictions with regard? Let me ask you, like, how do you ultimately see politics playing into these technologies? We're kind of talking about it a little bit, right? But it's an important topic. It's very real, right? Like you said, with proof of work, for example, we're seeing that politics seep into Bitcoin, for example, right? Into projects like Ethereum, right, where they've now gone proof of stake, and in the eyes of the state, it's two thumbs up, right? Like they get more points, right? So they're a little more friendly to the state. They're proof of stake. They're not using as much energy. You have something like Monero that's untraceable. 2 points deducted, not as easy to KYC, AML, track and trace. How do you see politics playing into these technologies? Is it going to ultimately, will something like a Monero survive politically, or could politics start to seep into the projects themselves and change the protocol to the point where it's no longer, this state resistant technology?
Would you use Monero if it was surveilled and censored?
No. So I don't know. So is it then just left to the small community of those that are,
yes, it very well could be, but the question is how small, because I don't know. So if states introduce the central bank digital currencies, you have a lot of customers, so it doesn't have to be a small community. A lot of customers, meaning the parallel economies. And I don't know, like, it depends on where you are, but it is in many countries 1/3 to 1/2 of economy. So it's not, it's not few nerds that are ideological. Parallel economy is a plumber that takes cash and doesn't give you a receipt and doesn't put it in the accounting, and probably not as common in the US. In Europe, it is a very common thing. So once cash goes away, then they will probably need some other solution. So that's like to the question if it's a small community. But to the larger question of politics that touches on the Lunarpunk topic. So basically, these technologies, they exist and they do not care about the current set of rules or laws at all. It's there are many markets where they try to regulate cryptocurrencies, and it actually kind of put fuel in the fire, and they actually started to use them. So in Colombia, they regulated how exchanges operate, so it created a thriving peer-to-peer market and so on. So with Lunarpunk, which is probably the best answer to your question, the idea is that you take all of these projects, and every project needs to survive in some way, which means positive P&L. They need to make some kind of profit. Doesn't have to be monetary profit. You can have a non-profit organization, but you cannot long-term have something that just consumes people's energy. You need, if people put energy in, what they get back needs to be more. Otherwise, it would drain everyone. So if I'm talking about profit now, I'm not only talking about, the monetary P&L, but, also if it gives back to the people that participate in the project. It can very well be non-profit. So that's the first, or that's the common criteria on the market. If you cannot generate some kind of profit, you're not sustainable and you will not survive. What Lunarpunks say is that there is a great filter for this profitability, and that is if a project cannot survive an attack of a state, then there is no way to have a positive P&L. So now the question is, okay, who is going to serve? What kind of project is going to survive an attack of the state? With these crypto projects, the attacks are coming. That they're might not be trying to completely kill the technology, but that there are how you should filter these transactions, or give us the name of these customers, or things like that. They're trying to regulate it somehow, or you cannot issue USD on the blockchain, or in Europe euros, or if you as a business accept a transaction, maybe you need to identify customers and things like this. And this filter comes before the P&L. So if you cannot survive this kind of attack, you're gone. You didn't even have a chance to show on the market that you are useful and profitable. So that means that probably what we will see on the market is that there are projects, maybe even Tornado Cash is a good example, that will not survive long term. They will not survive the attack of the state. But that means that all the users, if they want to solve this problem, they have to move over to a project that will survive the attack. So this filter actually is anti-fragile to state attacks. So every project that can survive these attacks, they not only survive, but they also get new customers, new users from other projects that did not survive. So this is kind of the dynamics of Lunarpunk. You had Rose on your show, so probably she explained it better. But this is my view on politics in relation to crypto. My view on politics in general, I'm not going to give you a political speech, but how I view it is that my job is not to ensure that the political climate is good enough for me, but I want to step out of these hierarchies. So what I realized, one example, I had some interactions with politics. I was speaking to a not a politician, an employee of some ministry in a country, and they were asking me how to attract more crypto people to their country. So not that important what I replied, but very fast, zero tax on crypto. Zero meaning zero, not 0.1, because zero means you don't have to do accounting. Easy residency, and leave the people alone. If you have these three things, and it's not some shithole that doesn't have basic security, then people will come probably. But what I realized is that most politicians have a mindset of we make the rules, and everyone else has to kind of comply with these rules and live by these rules. But now I was in a different situation. Now I was talking to someone who is basically a vendor, and they were asking, what competitive advantage do I need to have in order to attract more people like you? So I'm in a supermarket. I don't have to comply with laws. I'm picking a set of laws that I want to apply to me. And if I'm flexible, I can move to whatever country and kind of choose the results of politics, not politics. I'm not voting for a political party. I say, okay, this is a set of rules that I want to apply to me, and I choose these rules. Maybe many listeners have heard about the book called Sovereign Individual, and they explain this principle quite well. So just changing this mindset of I need to influence politics this way or that way in order for my team to win, or or in order for me to be able to do what I want to do in my life. I kind of step out of this game, step out of this hierarchy, say, okay, I don't care who the chief is. I care what I can do, what the rules are, and there is an easier way to choose it if you, of course, are willing to pay the price of moving somewhere else. But you can do business in different countries without moving, and so on. So
voting with your feet. But isn't there, how well does that work in the future as we move towards, a more centralized global state, right? So we have these large associations, right? A lot of them are kind of even outside of the purview of governments, but these large boards with members of all different countries that come together, and essentially is where they make the laws, right? They decide what the rules need to be for everyone, and then all countries underneath essentially adopt, or the countries are no longer a part of the mainstream new world order, right? So like, and it seems like we're moving further and further in that direction. I think last time when I had you on the show, that was a big part of what we spoke about, right? We spoke about the
OECD and FATF, Financial Action Task Force, and how it's enforced through the network.
Right, the financial, and which is a great example, right, where they're able to come together, representatives from all around the world, basically draft rules on how to quote unquote fight the financing of terrorism or whatever it may be, and then asking governments to essentially implement these rules. And next thing you know, the EU is doing it, the United States is doing it, every country in the world is doing it. So this idea of voting with your feet, does it eventually not work at some point when there's nowhere left to hide?
Well, we will see. I don't have a crystal ball, but what I can say is, first of all, we can, for example, with FATF, Financial Action Task Force, we can move outside of their rules by not using their financial networks, which is how it's enforced. So if we choose Monero instead of our local fiat currency, then, I never filled any form when I wanted to make a Monero transaction. But then, of course, it has costs. So you need to interact with the society in a different way. You need proxy merchants and other things. So this is a very dystopian scenario, but it's a way out. So that's kind of the light at the end of the tunnel. You can opt out because they cannot enforce it if you are part of a network that doesn't enforce it. The other thing is, or other two things. First is that cartels are. It is very profitable to break out of the cartels. So for example, OECD is trying to introduce a minimum 10% tax on income. I don't know if you have heard about that. It's a great push on like a global minimum tax. So, and there are countries like Hungary. They said we're not gonna do it. We want to attract business. There are countries such as Malta or Singapore, which will collect the 10% tax, but then they will give you a return because they don't need that much money. So you get a credit. So it's like a little bit for show. Then there are some countries that say, this type of business is not considered income. So we have 10% income tax, but this is not income. So you can have a kind of exceptions for certain types of business. And then of course what every country does, because for example European Union already, or OECD countries already have this 10% minimum income tax. What they say, oh, you're Apple, you're big, okay, so we're fine with 1% just for you, and here's the secret agreement. So first of all, this is a cartel agreement, and cartel agreements, if there's money to be made by breaking them, some countries will do it, which might make it a little bit more expensive for people, unfortunately, because they can say, okay, if you're Apple, you can get away with 1% income tax, but I don't want to pick on Apple. I don't know who has these agreements. Just an example. But if you are, Juraj or a small company, then you are not able to do it. The other reason why I'm optimistic is that these countries, even if they sign these agreements, that it's very far from implementing them well. If there's a reporting agreement signed by Luxembourg and US and let's say Georgia, not the US state Georgia, but the country Georgia, probably the country Georgia will not implement it that well, and you could go there and make a deal locally with a bank or with someone and make sure that it doesn't apply to you. And again, this breaks the cartel agreement, but not by changing the rules, but just by how these things are implemented in practice. So for example, if you do let's say a little bit shady transaction out of Panama, you will probably get flagged, and you would need to answer some questions. If you do a shady transaction within Ukraine or whatever, Eastern Europe, where I'm from, so I don't want to sound like I'm making fun of Eastern Europe, but I know how things work here, and they're probably not that well implemented. So I think voting with your feet will be possible because there's money to be made, and if it's not just physically moving to a different rule set, then you can use these parallel solutions such as Monero or money networks. Even for example, there is now chat in the European Union about giving about social networks giving access to private messages of people. So, for example, Twitter DMs, they might check for child pornography or something like that, or conspiracy theories. I don't know what they're trying to fight. But then you have encrypted networks that that you can opt into, and they don't enforce this. We have seen this during COVID. Now the Twitter files and now the Facebook files were released about how they try to control the narrative and suppress some voices. In my country, the state even censored some websites, blocked some websites. They were able to take off some Facebook pages and so on, and all of these people moved to Telegram channels, and this just improved the spread of this kind of information. So not only it did not work, they moved to a platform where it's much more difficult to censor it. So you can already see it happening. It's not some future possibility, but maybe the states will find a way to do it for real this time that I can't predict.
When you talk about cryptos that are resistant, essentially to government control or being co-opted, what do you see as the elements that are necessary for it to survive the great filter?
Privacy. If you don't know, so basically the philosophy, or the modern philosophy of crypto anarchy, is based on the first two parts of the OODA loops. So OODA loop is from the theory of conflict, military conflict, but it applies to any kind of conflict. And both sides, what they are doing, OODA means OODA. So the first O is observe. So you need to see what's going on in the conflict. What is the other party doing? Then you need to orient. You need to make sense of what just happened. Then you decide on your reaction, and then you act. So an example, a very simple one that is not military, is there is someone is buying wheat from a dealer in a country where wheat is illegal. Someone else, a policeman, observes, okay, this guy gave this other guy, a bag with some green stuff. So this is a, drug drug deal. It's funny to call selling of wheat drug deal, but they consider it that way. Then they have to orient. So basically, what they would do is they would go there. They would arrest them. They would see, okay, this bag was really wheat. This guy got some money. They record it. They know it. Then you go to the court. They decide, and then the court decides. You need to go to jail, or you need to pay a fine, or whatever, and that's the action. So both sides of conflict are doing this OODA loop until it's finished, and so most. Even libertarian strategies, but most strategies, they try to act on the last two parts of the OODA loop. So decriminalization of wheat means let's change the rules on how people decide, or let's change what are they going to do, how they're going to act. Crypto anarchy goes to the first two parts. So everything is encrypted, so now no one can observe what just happened. There is even parts of crypto anarchy strategy for physical things, but in standard, Monero transaction, you don't see what is happening. And the other part, okay, I saw, these people exchange some information, but I cannot orient. I cannot make sense of what just happened. There's plausible deniability. The keys were lost. You cannot actually see what is happening. So there's nothing to decide about because no one saw it. So that is why I think for these projects to survive, privacy is key, because the privacy gives us the possibility to kind of influence these first two parts of the conflict of the OODA loop. So that is key, I think, and that's probably Rose also talked about this when talking about Lunarpunk, that it's about the fight between surveillance and privacy. But I think this is the reason. I think many people would say, oh, surveillance, okay, so they know what I'm chatting with with my partner or with my friends. What's the big deal? But conflict starts with this. If you don't have privacy, you can go to the other parts of the OODA loop.
So do you see that as being, often on this show, I talk about that as being, potentially a critical flaw for Bitcoin, because it's ultimately transparent. There's an attack surface there. We've seen it, we've seen the state essentially take advantage of that already. Like a lot of those things we talked about on the last time you're on the show, right? So does it get to the point where the state could essentially mandate that transactions have to be compliant, right? So they would look at the histories of all transactions, and large miners would only be entering transactions that are quote unquote compliant. We spoke about the proof of work potentially being another attack. Is Bitcoin perhaps susceptible to these attacks because of its transparency and lack of privacy, or do you see it being able to overcome that?
It definitely doesn't help. So of course, if Bitcoin had better privacy on the first layer, it would be much harder to control. We've been maybe talking also about forcing the rules for the miners to be green, or to the checking where the energy comes from, or there are Bitcoin addresses on the OFAC sanction list. So something is happening, but the funny thing is that right now the enforcement is it's enforced by compliant entities. So right now the Bitcoin network processes any transaction that pays the transaction fees and satisfies the Bitcoin script, and that there is no real censorship of transactions on the Bitcoin network itself. But the fact that it can be traced, there are many people who are today in jail because their transactions were traced. So it is happening. I'm not saying that it's not possible with Monero. People make mistakes. They don't do operational security. And I'm, of course, not saying that all these people are innocent and they shouldn't be in jail. It's that there are many bad people who do horrible things with Bitcoin. But we can see that it's a proof that it is possible, and it's a form of attack, but it's an attack on compliant entities. They usually did stupid things, like they try to mix the Bitcoin with the coin join, didn't do it well, then use the KYC exchange or something like this. So definitely that might be a problem.
Do you love coffee and Monero as much as we do? Consider making gratuitous.org your daily cup. Pay with Monero for premium fresh beans, and if you like what you taste, send a digital cash tip directly to the Guatemalan farmers that made it possible. Proceeds help us grow this channel, Gratuitous, and Monero.
How about the number go up meme of Bitcoin, which is obviously, I'd say, the largest and most impactful meme in Bitcoin by far, right? Mm-hmm. More so than the cypherpunk ideology. Most people that are in Bitcoin own it today because they want it to be worth more tomorrow. And that's human nature, right? People, they want that windfall. They want to get wealthy off of it. Do you think that's essentially an attack, that a way for the state to essentially co-opt Bitcoin through creating regulations that conform with that ideology, that essentially help the number go up, but weaken the veracity of the project as it grows? So it becomes, less insipid to the state. It becomes it's defanged, right? So it becomes this thing that may be worth a lot of money. It may have made you a lot of money, but it may not take as much power away from the state as originally hoped. Do you think that's a potential attack vector?
Sorry. Something happened.
No worries. We'll wait for you.
I will just restart this software, but I will answer your question. So I haven't thought about it this way. So probably more interesting to hear your point of view, not mine. Definitely could happen. I think the number go up thing is natural for humans, and I think many people got into Bitcoin and crypto because of this, and then they, it's kind of boring. It doesn't go up tomorrow. So then you study, okay, what is this? Then you first start, looking at the exchange rate every day and see, okay, this is kind of crazy. It's going up and down. It's volatile, not as much as it used to be, but still. So with this NGU meme, I make fun of it all the time. But on the other hand, it really brought many people into these parallel economies, and it's also a good thing. And I don't blame people to want to be rich, and I do not definitely blame people. I actually think it's a good idea that people realize, okay, this other thing that we hold is not good for saving. I'm talking about fiat currencies. So yeah, it's a yeah. I think definitely as it could be abused. I haven't thought about it before, so I haven't given it any thought. But so far, I think it's not all bad.
Yeah, definitely not all bad. It's how we've gotten as far as we've gotten, right? It's how crypto bootstrapped itself. Yes. It was out of the greed, but I do feel like it pushes the project, particularly Bitcoin, towards making design decisions that align more with number go up than with cypherpunk ideology, and the end result may be something that is quote unquote digital gold. But the government knows exactly how much of it you own. They know everybody that owns it. They know where it is. They can see people when they move it, and people are fine with that. Just like they own their homes, people know where their homes are, and it's just like this, piece of digital property that has value that the state's okay with you using. Maybe they could even come and collect their unrealized capital gains tax on it at will, and it just loses its fangs in terms of taking power away from the state. The state essentially just makes more money off of it themselves.
Yes, definitely. I think that one of the mistakes that the community made was around 2018, when everyone was expecting the institutions, institutional investors to come up, and I think it kind of, I don't know if people helped it, but they definitely didn't fight it. They said, okay, it's a good thing, we want the pension funds and even states and whatever ETFs. Everyone was talking about the Bitcoin ETF, and some of the institutions actually invested, but I think people wanted for the number to go up too fast, and I don't think that it was good to kind of how to say it, to adjust Bitcoin and this fear to these institutional investors. We shouldn't have tried to sell them on this idea, and I don't think we need them, actually. I think that they complicate things. I'm not a big fan of the El Salvador forced tender of Bitcoin, so I don't. I don't get many likes for this when I talk about this on social media, but I don't think pushing people into crypto, definitely not forcing people into crypto. I don't think it's a good idea. If you want it, if you see the use for it, if you are ready for it, if it's okay with your personal philosophy and values, perfect, go ahead, buy Bitcoin, buy Monero, buy whatever you want, use it. But telling merchants you have to accept this crypto because our big boss decided that it's the future, and that's not something I'm a fan of. And I think the institutions are not as bad. Okay, that no one forced them to do it, but they shape it in this way because they want clean bitcoins, they don't want coin joined bitcoins, and so on. So I think if we maybe focused more on things like normalizing coin joins, like these privacy wallets, they say make every Bitcoin transaction a coin join. If we did this instead of explaining to the institutions, oh, it's all good, you can see here's a chain analysis web interface, and here you can see if the coins are clean and it's possible, and don't worry about money laundering. If we said, oh, by the way, you can't see any history, it might be money laundering, you would not sell it to the institutions this way. But then we are where we are right now. So, but there are other options. So it's all good.
Do you think a lot of people in Bitcoin, talk about these ideas, but don't really truly care about them? So like the things like the privacy, obviously, my hunch is you very much do, right? But do you think there's a lot of people that just are doing it to just kind of go along with the move people into Bitcoin? I don't know. I just feel like if they cared so much about it, then they would be talking about Monero as well, right? Like obviously you do, because you're true to your ideals. But do you think a lot of these BTC maxis that talk about Bitcoin as the one and only, and that how we need to make it private, do you think they really care about those ideals, or?
I can't talk about. I don't know. I don't see into their heads, but I'll give you a funny insight. So when the Cypherpunk Visions book came out, I have on my eShop, I have of course a BTC Pay server that accepts Bitcoin, Monero, whatever. I think Litecoin, Lightning payments, and I also had a credit card, Stripe there, and it's a book on Cypherpunk Visions, and half of the people pay with credit card, which is okay. Like they want to, that they're interested. They're maybe not cypherpunks. I'm grateful for everyone who wants to read my work. It's not I'm not complaining or anything. But then I saw some of the people are kind of prominent crypto people that I'm sure 100% that they have a crypto wallet that they could use. But the Apple Pay button with Stripe is much easier. You just double click and the payment goes through. So this is funny, that you have people who advocate for this parallel financial system. They know why it's good. They know its properties. And yet, where they have to decide, okay, am I gonna scan the QR code and start the wallet, or am I just gonna click buy with Apple Pay and double click? They're gonna use that. So that's interesting to me. Again, I'm not complaining at all. It's just something that surprised me, and I'm kind of curiously looking at those numbers and see. As I said, half. It's maybe half. So 50% pay with crypto, 50% with fiat, which is probably the highest crypto adoption. Like many crypto people would love to see those numbers. So mostly it's 3 transactions per month with crypto and everything else with fiat. So I'm good. But this is happening, and they in Slovak language, I have an online course on cryptocurrency privacy, and even that some people pay with fiat, and that's like, okay, maybe they don't know. I actually spoke to some of them, and they say, okay, but if I pay you with crypto, then I would have to declare taxes because that's it's a sale of cryptocurrency. Then I would need to tax it and stuff like that. So there might be good reasons, but then I did this project. It's in Slovak language, or actually not me. That there's a group of people that started this meme. So the most commonly used name, first name in Slovakia is Peter. The most commonly used surname in Slovakia is Horvat. So I don't know what John Smith would be an equivalent in English, maybe, or something like that. Mm-hmm. We have created as a community this webpage for this fictional Peter Horvat. And it explains how you can buy stuff online anonymously by using this name. So you increase the anonymity. Okay, it's the most common name in Slovakia, at least first name and surname. I'm not sure about the combination. So it's really interesting because there are ways how to get stuff delivered to your home. Or to these, pickup boxes. If you don't use your real name, no one asks for an ID and so on. So it's kind of like an how to. Okay, this is how you pay anonymously. This is how you buy stuff anonymously. This is how you go for if you need a warranty exchange and stuff like that. So that half of my customers are called Peter Horvat, but then 10% of them pay with fiat, and when I receive the wire, I see the real name on the transfer. So it kind of misses the purpose. But it's a fun thing to do. If you imagine, okay, all these merchants, they ask for my name and address. I have to do it as well because of VAT rules. Actually, I cannot sell stuff if I don't know where you live, because that's how I calculate the value-added tax. Okay. But I don't care about your name. I just write any name you feel like using. Use a pseudonym. I'm not asking for a legal name. That's just his name. So write whatever you want. I don't care where you live, actually. I'm not sending you anything physical. So, write anything you want. But people don't do it that often. So we tried to promote this. The reason I didn't do it in English, I'm not sure if this is actually legal in the US. There is this Computer Decency Act or something like that, where you're not supposed to lie about your address or something like that. I'm not sure, so I just didn't bother researching the laws in other countries. But this is increase anonymity set, pay privately. And you can just try it, it's no big deal, you can order food under a different name and see how it feels and play with it. It's not, you don't need to change your lifestyle or anything, but I think it's nice to play with these technologies and also to change this mindset of, okay, why does a grocery store need to know my name? I don't need to give it to them.
So what would you tell the average Joe if he asks, Juraj, to be honest, I don't have any crypto. I don't use any. Why should I start using crypto tomorrow? I mean, I got my credit cards. I got Venmo. It's basically free for me to transact with those. Why would I start using crypto tomorrow? What's kind of your elevator pitch?
Elevator pitch would be first mentioning some friends that had problems like frozen accounts and so on. So Venmo works until it doesn't. My favorite example is Flipper Zero. It's a very nice device. I don't have it with me, but it's like a hacker tool, like a hacker Swiss Army knife, I would say. It can crack many protocols, and they used PayPal for the orders. and at some point PayPal froze $1.3 million without, support being able to answer when it's unfrozen and so on. So this is okay, business. I'm not a business. I'm an average Joe. I have a friend who tried to wire money to his daughter from Panama to Spain, and of course, wiring money from Panama is definitely money laundering, even if it's 400 euros. So people are having these bad experiences. So that's the first part. The other part is, we see that the fiat currencies are going to shit. It might not actually fully play out. There might not be a currency collapse, but it might be. So what I would say to the average Joe is, no big deal. Take $20. Buy some Monero, buy some Bitcoin, play with it. When you go to a restaurant with friends, pay for them, collect money in Monero or with Lightning Wallet or anything. Just try it out, see how it feels. The technology is really simple. You got farmers in Guatemala to accept Monero, so average Joe should probably be also able to do it. I think coffee farmers are above average smart because they need to grow good coffee. but it's definitely doable, and I wouldn't suggest go all in and NGU buy a lot of it, but just have this experience. And the reason to have this experience is, if something happens to the main financial system, to the mainstream primary financial system, you already not only know how to use the alternative, but you have everything set up. You know how to receive, how to send, how to use it. So that's the reason. And really, $20 for start, just to play with it is okay. You can make some transactions and do some transactions, and it will enhance your chances in case something bad happens.
What are some of the tips you would give to people that are like, maybe a little more advanced? They're into crypto, they use crypto, and they want to start living the life of a cypherpunk. They want to start living in a parallel economy. Tips and tricks for people that want to actually start living that life. Are there kind of...
Okay, I give if they're advanced, one of the things I like to do is short fiat. so I like to use collateralized loans, and it has been a theme in the crypto community around parallel polis for some time now. So basically, what you do is you never sell your crypto. That in most countries means you never pay capital gains tax, because there's no capital gains. You just take the cryptocurrencies you have, you use them as a collateral for a loan. And if the interest rate on the loan is lower than the current inflation rate, especially your own inflation, so the rise in prices of things you personally buy, then you are basically shorting fiat. And what it means is that when you have to return the money in the future, let's say in 10 years, you can have open-ended loan, you will have to work less to make the amount of money. So it's Bitcoin maxis, they hodl, and I say I hodl hard because even for my consumption, I never sell my crypto, and I always borrow. So if they have to, buy their carnivore steaks, then they're short crypto because they have to sell their precious Bitcoin to buy those steaks. I don't have to sell my Bitcoins. I borrowed the fiat and then convert it to the stakes. And so that's one of the strategies. Of course, there are many risks. You need to know what you're doing. I try to teach it. It's there's a book. There's a chapter on this in the book, including like 5 pages on risks and how to handle them. But this is my favorite strategy, and this is even more true cypherpunk than just hodling, I think. Of course, some people would say, okay, then you need to lock your crypto somewhere, then you don't have all the private keys and things like that. So I understand there are considerations. It's not for everyone, but this is a really good trick. It also deals with volatility because you don't care what the price is that much. Of course, you need to have enough of collateral. So if it would fall down to 10%, then it would be a problem. But for basic use, you don't really care about the current price of crypto.
No, but doesn't that run contrary to the meme of we should be using crypto to help grow crypto?
What do you mean? I'm still long crypto, so it's actually I'm using it, but not as a. I'm using it as a collateral for a loan. Mm-hmm. But what you borrow, if you borrow on some DeFi protocols, of course you need to make sure you deal with the privacy. So don't pay with the stable coins that you borrow or something like that. But then the easiest thing is to actually convert what you borrow to crypto at the time when you are paying, and still use the privacy features and everything. So
you're using it as collateral to borrow
stable coins or fiat.
Turning the fiat into crypto for the actual spending purposes.
If I can, it's not possible for everything, but if I can, I do it this way. So many merchants accept crypto these days. So you can convert it to gift card on Amazon. You can go into mainstream economy this way. There are many ways how to do it.
So pretty much in any instance where you're making a purchase, if you see that crypto is there as an option, are you essentially going with that option?
Definitely. It's actually I've been trying this for the past maybe 2 years. That I really want to keep my privacy in regards to payments. So I completely stopped using my credit card for any in-person purchase. So I carry cash and I go old school, and I really pay cash everywhere. I know there are places where it's almost impossible to do it these days, but I'm fortunate enough to move around in places where this is possible. And I do the same. With online purchases. If there's an option to pay with crypto, there is one huge exception, which is BitPay, which is a horrible company, because if they sense that you are from Europe, I think from European Union, they would want you to create an account and go through KYC, even for a purchase. Even if you're paying for whatever Air Baltic airplane ticket or something like that, the first step is create an account, show us your passport, video verification or selfie or something like that. So if I sense that there is BitPay involved, I do not touch that button, but otherwise I do it. I also like to use services that give you one-time anonymous prepaid debit cards, such as Pay with Moon. That way I can buy a prepaid credit card with Lightning, which has pretty good privacy for these smaller purchases, and then I pay with a debit card. The drawback is that I think there's an upper limit on the purchase, $250 or something like that, and it only works with US merchants. So that's another problem.
In what instances are you, choosing Monero versus Bitcoin versus Lightning? Like, if you're on a website and they accept all three, why use one or the other?
Well, if there's Lightning or Monero, I will definitely use those because of privacy. And then it's how I feel. Lightning has a feature of instant confirmation. So if it's something I just want to be done with, then I do it. But the problem is I don't often have, or sometimes it happens I don't have enough money. When I want to receive money from friends, I prefer Monero because I like to keep it. I have, some of the people they have these rituals of brushing their teeth and reading Twitter. I have to say my ritual is brushing teeth and synchronizing my Monero wallet. I like to keep it, in sync. It's try it. It's fun. I use Monero.com wallet on my phone, and it feels good, and I see that I'm kind of interact with the network. So for me, it's I like using Monero definitely. I have to say I like receiving it more than spending. But if it's what started happening, we have a private Signal group for Monero community here in Slovakia, in Czech Republic. And people started offering things. My friend makes honey. There's now this group of people, a startup that makes kimchi, and and they started selling it for Monero, either through proxy merchants or directly. Of course, there's a lot of CBD products now with problems with payment gateways. They love to accept crypto. So that is happening, and I like that it's going around. I think Monero is to be used. It's not, just.
Do you anticipate Monero growing in usage for transactional purposes versus Bitcoin for those reasons? Like, when I have the option, obviously all I really have is Monero, so I use Monero. But there is, like you said, it's better to receive than to give, right? It's nice when you're gaining Monero, but there is something to be said when you use Monero, because you are getting something out of it in that transaction. You're getting privacy, right? You know that nobody's seeing your transaction, so it's not like you're just using a crypto for the sake of using it. You're actually getting something out of it. Do you see that driving the growth of Monero for transactional purposes?
I don't know. I'm bad at predictions, even though I wrote the book on visions, but they're not predictions. I don't know what's going to happen.
What's your vision?
Yeah, I definitely hope that people start using it when they realize that that it's the money of the of the people that can use it. With Lightning, there are some. Well, with both actually, with both Monero and Lightning, there are some practical things to consider. With Lightning, it's basically two things: the need to open a channel to receive, which wallets solve automatically, but then you have to pay fees sometimes. And the other thing right now is that the counterparty needs to be online. So if you are at the checkout of a website, it's not a problem. But for example,
tipping the Guatemalan farmers, right? It would be hard to effectively do that with,
even if they're offline or their phone is sleeping. So this is a practical problem. So I often send and receive Lightning payments within my family, with my mom and something like that. And sometimes her phone would just not wake up on the push notification, and I would have to write her on Signal, Mom, open the wallet. You sent me an invoice, now open the wallet. It didn't go through the first time. But it has improved lately. It's quite okay. The problem with Monero, especially in parallel police, was the thing that you cannot spend money you received right away. You need to wait for a few confirmation, around 20 minutes. So a basic use case, you know, I go to an ATM or I buy Monero from someone. I need to wait until I can use it. And then if you have one input, you know, you go to the bar, you pay for the coffee, you sit down, you drink the coffee, and then you think, oh, I would like a cake. And you can get the cake in 20 minutes because the change has to confirm. So
yeah, I never really practically run into that problem because, if you, like you said, you update your Monero wallet every morning. I assume you receive transactions, you know, a couple times a week. So if you're
if you're not a new user, then
right, it's a new user issue. But once I find the more you use it, that problem completely evaporates because you always have older, you know, inputs that are ready to be spent.
And what I also do, it's another ritual. I don't do this every day, but I just send some Monero back to myself. So I kind of like to keep it mixed. So it's like, okay, now I need more inputs. So, you know, you say, okay, if I have one Monero, I can send whatever, half to myself. Now I have two outputs. One is the normal output, one is the change, and then I have less of this problem.
Like playing with coins in your hand, just flipping
around. Yeah. Yeah.
Juraj, man, we could go for hours. Greatly appreciate you doing this interview. The book was great. I didn't make my way completely through it. I'll hold it up to the screen. Cryptocurrency.
Show how fat it is. That's why you didn't go through it, because it's 400 or something pages.
I tried, you know, I skimmed so I could cover the topics. But it's amazing. I mean, you have so much knowledge in this area.
Thank you very much.
I thought the short book you did, the Cypherpunk Visions and Trends, that one I read the whole thing before we jumped on. That was awesome. Really well done. You talk about AI in there. You talk about kind of all the kind of up and coming technologies and how they where we might see things in the next, I guess, 2 years. Why'd you do it 2023 to 2025? What was your thinking there? Why'd you pick that time frame?
It's the saying that we overestimate things that we can do in 3 months and underestimate things we can do in 3 years. So it's 3 years, 2023 to 2025. 3, 4, 5. So that's why I didn't want to pick a super short time frame, because things don't usually happen on when they're, you know, expected. But I didn't want to, you know, be in a dreamland of, you know, what's gonna happen in 2100 or something. So I wanted to have a more constrained time frame. So the reason I wrote the book is that in cryptocurrencies, I didn't want to have things that are that will expire, that will be obsolete in 2 years. So I tried to cover kind of more broad topics and write about it in a practical but general way. You know, there are collateralized loans. You can do this, you can do that. But I showed some technologies, but it was not really about the exact technologies to use, because they might change in 4 years. I don't want to write it again. But then I think it is interesting to see what is happening in the world right now. And an example would be, you know, AI. I really hope for open source AI. Another topic that is not really related to crypto is parallel social networks or alternative social networks, where you can't get censored and things like this.
Awesome, man. How would you say your view of Monero has evolved over the years, or has it? Have you always held the same beliefs in Monero from when we spoke 2 years ago? I don't know. I mean, I'd say I feel like you're maybe a little bit even more pro Monero these days from when I last spoke to you. Not that you were against it then, but I feel like you talk about it more now in terms of like something.
So I met you at MoneroCon, and that changed things for me, because I went to many crypto conferences. I organized some, so I kind of have an overview, and each of these conferences or communities, not definitely conferences as well, but you can generalize to communities. They have a kind of a different vibe. And I was last year I was at Ethereum conferences, at some Bitcoin conferences, and at MoneroCon in Lisbon. Excited to hopefully go to Monerotopia as well. So I'll try to make it happen. And what I realized at MoneroCon is there was no bullshit. There were no people in suits. There were no venture capitalists. There were I was at one Bitcoin maximalist conference, and they were like every talk was how they hodl hard or hodl harder, and trading panel was you need to hodl. So. And the MoneroCon was, it had exactly the same feeling as the first Bitcoin conferences in 2011, 2012. Excitement, we have new money, we have privacy, we can build stuff on it. Even the use cases that people were talking about were kind of back to the roots. What kind of problem does it solve? You were roasting coffee, and you could see, okay, so this is a tool that can, I can just send money to the farmer that grew this. It's not a super cool project with an exchange and crazy valuation and all these things. So I really like the a little bit geeky vibe, but it was not geeky in a IT nerd way. But of course, there were some talks about whatever dark fi and zero knowledge proofs and stuff like that. But the vibe coming out of the people was amazing, and it really sparked the good memories of the Bitcoin community of 2011 and 2012. So that was definitely the point when I say, okay, I like. Of course, I like Monero, but first of all, I liked the people, the community, and the values. So that's more because the technology, frankly, didn't change that much. The wallet synchronizes faster because of the recent hard fork, but it's still send receive and it works same way it used to 2 years ago. But
digital
experience,
yeah, that's inspiring to hear, man. That's nice to hear that, because you're obviously an OG. So to hear you say those things, it's promising that Monero is hopefully on the right track, and hopefully it stays on the right track in terms of its culture. I think it's doing a good job at that. Job at that. Thank you so much, Juraj. If you have a minute or two, we could jump into the chat and we'll let people ask questions. I don't know if anybody has any, but we could at least check it out.
Yeah,
down for that?
Sure, sure.
Is there anything you want to mention before we move on to that? Is there anything you want to put out there, promote?
Well, definitely if people are interested in using cryptocurrencies, the Cryptocurrencies book is good. So check it out. You can buy it for Monero on my website, hackyourself.io/shop. And I also have it on Amazon, but I prefer if you use Monero to buy it. There's also an ebook. There will be a Spanish version quite soon, maybe in about a month, hopefully. It's already translated. So I try to comment on things on Twitter and Mastodon. So if you think that I talk about interesting things, have a look at my social profiles. I basically Twitter and Mastodon. On other platforms I write in Slovak, so unless you can decrypt this cryptic language with AI you could, but
what's your Twitter handle?
JURBED. So first three letters of my first name and first three letters of my surname.
Guys, definitely give him a follow. You're always dropping interesting information. All right, so that concludes the interview portion. We're going to try to move over to take questions. So if anybody has a question, now is the time to request to ask. Anybody want to say anything? Otherwise, we'll close it out. We already had our convo. Juraj, you want to say anything to the people in the room here?
Oh, let me think. I just connected my headphones, so well.
I'm so glad I finally, I think, figured out how to pronounce your name correctly by reading your book. 'Cause I think you spell it out phonetically in there. It's essentially Juraj, correct?
Yes. Paul Rosenberg actually wrote it in the introduction. So
yes,
in
that's
the
where I
preface. So
that's where I saw it. I was like slapping myself. I was like, oh man, I feel so embarrassed. I've not been correctly stating your name. Gabriel, what's going on, man?
Hey, how's it going, guys? Yeah, I have a hard time pronouncing your name as well. My apologies. I joined in late, but I just want to kind of get an update. You're in the Czech Republic, correct?
No, I'm from Slovakia, and I kind of travel a lot, but currently I'm in Slovakia. Probably the reason why you think about Czech Republic is because I'm a co-founder of the Parallel Police in Prague, which is the space. But I'm Slovak and I don't live in the Czech Republic.
Oh, okay, that's where that's exactly why I assumed that. Yeah, just a question about what's the feel in Europe like as far as inflation and the heating with what we hear over here as far as the sanctions. How is that affecting daily life over there? And is cryptocurrency helping you bypass any of that?
Yes, so I was talking in the main part of the talk about shorting fiat. So yeah, there's definitely inflation. The inflation is happening in the US as well, but the value of euro went even more down than the value of dollar. I think the Fed increased the interest rates a little bit sooner, so there was kind of a little bit of break in the inflation. One thing about inflation, which is very important to note, is that inflation is different for everyone. It depends on what you buy. So for example, the difference between Slovakia and Czech Republic in inflation is, of course, the difference is because it's a different economy, but another difference is that they calculate it differently. They use different products in different proportions. There is another alternative that is calculated using the methodology of European Central Bank. So, but for example, okay, if you're Czech, then you probably drink way more beer than if you are from some other country. So, of course, the proportion of beer in the inflation calculation should be higher. So first thing is rising prices. The second thing I have noticed is that there is scarcity of products. So example, I was buying a new car. From the moment I ordered it until it came and I got my hands on it, it was 1.5 years. What is interesting though is that during this time, the price of the cars, the list price from Volkswagen, which is the brand of the car I bought, didn't change. So in the calculation of inflation, nothing is happening, but there are no new cars from the seller. So inflation calculation looks like okay, nothing is happening. But if you really want the car today, you need to buy a used car, and the used car is more expensive than the new one, because you can have it today and not in 1.5 years. So I think the main thing about inflation in Europe, but probably everywhere else, is it's not the one number that they publish in the newspaper, or the whatever central bank or whatever government agency publishes the official number. But you need to really see what you are trying to buy, what is happening, and if that affects you, and how much the prices of what you actually are buying are rising. So yeah, I think it's going to be bad and worse. You can help it a little bit by the strategy of borrowing fiat and holding crypto. I think it's a good strategy. But it will not solve everything, because the prices are if there's a 10% PA inflation, it doesn't mean that every product will rise 10%. Some products will rise 25%, and some products will be cheaper. So that's just some kind of calculation. And also the scarcity and unavailability of products is something to consider as well.
Okay, no, thanks for the answer. Just interesting to get a take from the other side of the ocean there. And then going back to what you were just talking about, the different fields and different conferences. This isn't so much a question, just a comment, but I think a couple of weeks back I hopped on a podcast, and I only hopped on because I saw you, Doug, on it. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting to see what they're talking about. And holy moly, they went crazy. There was a Bitcoin talk I think you were on, and it went from a bit of a disagreement to all of a sudden one guy was going to track another guy down and kill him, and the profanity, and I was just like, wow, I was blown away. Do you remember that one, Doug?
I don't, only because that's happened to me so many times, man. Those rooms get pretty toxic. Those rooms get pretty toxic.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm just ignorant on the part, because I've only ever gone on Monero related podcasts, and that was my first experience being outside of I guess the sheltered confines of the Monero community, and I was just kind of, wow, I'm gonna have to change the channel because my kids were in the room. So
well, I also had if I can say, I had a experience. I was at a conference. I was actually moderating a panel that was about cypherpunks versus normies in suits. That was the topic of the panel, and we had a Bitcoin maxi on the panel, and he started like this, this talk about everything's gonna be built on Bitcoin, and all these projects on other chains, they will die, and I have a prediction that in half a year we will not use anything else, and so on. And it was totally off topic. The panel was not about Bitcoin maxis or what is the better currency. We were talking about, we were supposed to talk about a completely different topic, and I really was amazed how they can kind of take the space. And I know, some people probably, because they're my friends and I was supposed to handle it, they said that they enjoyed the whole thing, but I really didn't enjoy it, because I want to sometimes talk about other things than, Bitcoin versus whatever else, and this for the time to talk about something else. And yeah, it was so yeah, it's like, there's a place to talk about whatever your favorite crypto project, and then there's a place to talk about something else, and some people don't get the idea which is when.
I've had, now that I'm thinking of it, 3 different conversations. These are all in person, and they both the conversation escalated and went sideways, and it was unnecessary. But these three different conversations, these individuals always reference something called ISO. And I'm not sure if that's the same ISO as the International Standards Organization, but the argument was basically saying that only coins that are ISO compliant will survive. And I don't know where ISO is coming from or what that is. And because the conversation has always just gotten ridiculous, I never get to ask the question of what's this ISO you're referring to. So I don't know if anyone else has ever heard that argument or know what ISO they're referring to.
That's good.
You're right. You want to take a shot? I don't know what he's referring to.
I'm not sure either. The only argument similar to this I heard, but I'm not sure if it was ISO. But I have heard some Ripple fans explain that there is some kind of standard for transactions, and that only Ripple is currently compliant with it. And he even sent a link to something, and that was kind of the XRP kind of elevator pitch. Everyone is going to be using Ripple because no other crypto is compliant. But then I don't think it is the same thing, because are you, Gabriel? Are you talking about Bitco and ISO, or how? In what context?
Not even.
You heard it. Sorry.
So usually how it's come up is just where I live in our local community. There's been these kind of expos where it's basically not farmers markets, but basically people that are aware of what's going on, that want to kind of transact out of the system, kind of parallel economies. And of course, the medium of exchange always comes up. And that's usually where the knives come out, it seems to be. And some people start talking about Bitcoin, and then others will name their favorite projects, whatever it is. And then eventually someone will, it always ends up getting heated and escalated anytime it comes up. But then they'll say, no, it won't work unless your coin is compliant with ISO. And that's usually the context I hear it in. And I never really gets much further than that.
I don't know. Maybe if someone else knows, they can say. But I
do remember one person. I do remember one person talking about Ripple and ISO in the same conversation. So maybe it is connected. But if so, I'd have to disagree. That Ripple's not where I want to be.
Yeah, definitely.
Anybody else in the audience want to jump up and ask Juraj a question? Now's the time. Gabriel, you got anything else?
No, I probably hijacked it enough, so I'll let someone else have a turn if they want to step up.
Coffee, what's going on, man? Oh, I just tried to add you. You requested. Go ahead, Coffee. Inviting you to speak.
We got a heart.
Coffee's being shot.
We got a heart.
Coffee's being shot.
Okay.
Coffee, you want to say something? I don't know. All right, guys. Anybody else? Otherwise, we'll close it out. I've been dealing with my ankle surgery over here.
How are you, by the way?
It's all right. I'm on some heavy meds, some heavy painkillers. I didn't pass out during the interview, so I did okay.
Perfect.
I wasn't able to keep my foot elevated, so now I've moved to the couch, so it's elevated.
Nice.
But yeah, man, it realigns your priorities in life when you have something simple like this, right? It's like cryptocurrencies. I'm just trying to walk around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Evan, what's going on?
Hi, Doug. How are you, mate?
Good,
Yeah,
man. What do you
very
got?
good.
Yeah, we're good. Just a small question. How was crypto in Slovakia? Was it freely accepted initially, or was it like a taboo or something people didn't talk about or something?
I'm very biased because I was hosting first event about Bitcoin in 2011 in our hackerspace in Bratislava. So and for me it was so fascinating that I would say, okay, now is the time when the parallel financial system is being born, so I have to do this, and I don't want to focus on anything else, because this is where the fun is. I missed the the creation of the New York Stock Exchange. So these parallel or these new markets and new technologies, they don't come up that often. So I wanted to be part of it, and that's who I surrounded myself with. But what I want to say, I remember in 2018 we tried to book the largest venue for a talk. It was my friend Pavel's talk about Monero, actually. And I remember that it was so packed that most people were standing on stairs and even outside, and some people even didn't get to see the talk, and we had to kind of explain to them on the street what is going on. So I think the community, and because we had parallel police in Bratislava, now there's another one in Košice. So there is a really live community, I think. There were many places where crypto is accepted. Now I think it's kind of going down. Like the number of places where it's accepted is a little bit going down, especially in physical venues, because there are some good payment gateways that integrated Bitcoin early on, and you can buy many things online. But if you go to cafeteria, it used to be more places that accepted Bitcoin. One of the reasons probably is that Bitcoiners didn't want to spend it, so the merchant said, okay, this payment terminal that we didn't turn on for one thing that happened to me is I wanted to pay in a pharmacy. And they said, oh, okay, sure, we can do it. And they turned on the terminal. They needed to put it on charger because the battery was out. And they said, oh, but it doesn't have the new Wi-Fi password because no one wanted to pay for the past few months. But what is interesting is, for example, we had a very dense ATM.
You're breaking up for me. Are you guys able to hear?
Yeah, it's breaking for me as well.
Yeah, I don't know. We're losing you now for some reason. No. Maybe jump out and jump back in. You're coming in all broken up. Anybody else want to jump up, ask a question for Juraj while he fixes his sound? Hopefully it gets back to normal. Anybody out there? Just request to speak. Go for it. Yura, you want to try now? Talk. Might have lost him. Evan, you have anything else you wanted to ask? I don't know if he'll be able to answer, but give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I just asked this question because where I'm from, I'm also from Europe. And crypto in my area seems like something people don't like to talk about unless numbers goes up and they brag to each other how much they made and, you know, these kind of things, which is a bit strange for me, to be honest. I just had this question in my mind: how other countries in Europe feel about this subject and how they deal with it. Because I don't know many people in Europe actually that use Monero, especially, and I'm just trying to get some ideas from here and there.
Whereabout are you from?
Well, that wouldn't be very private of me to disclose it.
Well, yeah, you don't have to give it. You don't have to give your exact coordinates. All right.
Yeah, let's just say I'm somewhere on a small island somewhere in Europe. There are not many, so
Okay.
somewhere there.
Okay. Yuri, are you back? Evan is just looking for some insight into the general crypto scene in Europe, whether people are actually using it. Where he's from, they don't really use it that much. I could kind of say the same for here. I mean, in New York, I use it in my day-to-day. I get people to accept it all the time. The place where I've experienced the most like true crypto usage has been at PorcFest in New Hampshire. In New Hampshire in general, there's actual real organic adoption taking place there. And it's exciting to see. Alina, I see you've requested. I'm going to add you as a speaker. What's going on, Alina? Go ahead, take it away. Go ahead, Alina. Just unmute yourself and you can chime in. I don't know. I think we're having some issues here. Yuri, are you able to talk? Let's see if we could hear you. I don't know, man. Evan, are you able to talk? Is it just me and you?
Yeah, it seems like it.
Yeah, so I mean, my own personal experience, New Hampshire has been one of the places where I've seen actual organic, real world, adoption, people using it. Places accepting it, people understanding it, and not just being spoken about as an investment tool, but actually a means of transacting.
It's quite growing in Czechia and Slovakia as well, I would say. Just recently, some friends from Satoshi Labs launched a Vexel app. I don't know if Juraj mentioned it before, has he?
I don't think he mentioned it on the show. Go ahead.
All right. So Vexel app started off as a peer-to-peer decentralized app for trading Bitcoin, right? But people started to quickly build other stuff on it. And they just launched it maybe 2 months ago or 3 months ago in Czechia and Slovakia. And the way it works, it basically creates each phone creates its own network of trust based on the phone number and your friends' phone numbers that you have stored. And then some discovery of offers happens based on that network. So you kind of have some trust involved or built up inherently by this. And people started to just trading stuff. Not just Bitcoin for Czech crowns or Slovak, euro, but anything pretty much. And
Is it like a local Bitcoin or like a local Monero type thing?
Something like that. Yeah, it's an app. It's called Vexel, VEXL, Vexel. And the name itself refers to a very old tradition from the communist Czechoslovakia, when when you wanted some foreign currency, money, there were limits imposed on how much you could get, and you had to ask the communist party to allow you to buy certain amounts of dollars or something. So people obviously needed more. So the way they would get them is to go to the street and find a dealer on the street, which was called Wechsler. And the name Wechsel comes from the German word to exchange. So they were, live exchange guys, live ATMs on the street. And so now they launched this app with this name, circling back, like pointing to the historical experience that we had, and people started trading a lot of things on it. The nice thing about it is that the company that provides the software cannot see and cannot influence the offers at all. So the market just grows as it grows, and nobody's deleting offers and stuff like that. You basically have, as a user, you have to moderate your own offers, what you want to see, and it's pretty cool. I think, yeah.
Does it have escrow? I'm hearing a lot of moving around with your microphone. If you try to.
Is this better?
Yeah.
A little bit.
And Juraj, I think you messaged me. You're trying to speak. I don't know what's going on because there's nothing for me to do on my end. Maybe exit and re-enter, or I'll boot you as a co-host and just request to speak. But yeah, my question is, is there any tools or is part of the system escrow? Is there escrow built into the system?
I don't think so. No, not yet. So basically, people just either meet, or I want Bitcoin and you send me cash to my bank account. That's also an option. Yeah, but it's like it's beta version, but it's picking up very fast. There are thousands of offers already, and we are a small country. These two countries together have 15 million people, so it's a small market, but it's pretty alive. And in general, coming back to the question of adoption in these countries, especially Czechia, has always been very do-it-yourself culture, or at least historically do-it-yourself culture. Plus, we have a very good technical education, and so there were a lot of very early Bitcoiners and altcoiners, and also Monero is pretty like massive in certain subculture of the crypto scene. So I wouldn't say necessarily that we have huge adoption, but it's not bad considering, for example, Alza is the biggest retailer in electronics. They're really big, and they are huge Bitcoin fans. They accept it. They accept over Lightning payments now. They've been even selling some gadgets. They've been selling a Trezor hardware wallet, for example. So there are these nice places where you can directly spend crypto.
They also have. I'm back. They also have ATMs in their retail stores. Sorry,
Yeah.
You can continue.
Yep.
I didn't want to break your thought, but
Yeah.
it's like they really are in it. They have a crypto publication and they. So yeah, I think you're right. By the way, Alena was one of the co-founders of Satoshi Labs, who that created the Trezor wallet. So she's shy to introduce herself.
I don't think it's needed, but there's also, for example, talking about ATMs, there's General Bytes, which was one of the very first ATM producers.
And I
There's
think
a lot of like a huge Ethereum space. I think I hear about hundreds of Ethereum developers being here. I don't know if that's true. Yeah, I think these two markets are pretty active, and maybe it has really something to do with the history, when what place we grew up, like a place of oppression and very little personal freedom. So people had to do their way through to make their things they wanted. During communism, like my dad wanted a camera. How do you call it, cover for diving. And to buy it was not an option because he would have to save all the money he earns for 5 years. And because the currency was so weak. So he just made it, and all the mothers and grandmothers were knitting and sewing and producing like clothes because there was scarcity. So we kind of learned to think our way through and around certain obstacles. And so Bitcoin and crypto and Monero fell just naturally into this. Like if you have a problem, you can solve it with these tools. So people like that, and people like to find quiet ways to go their own way. If you understand me, like quiet ways to protest, and crypto is perfect.
Mhm.
Did you talk about Harta 77 and the idea of parallel police?
I was talking about it last time I went on with that
Yes.
2 years ago, but I would like to add something about the VexLab because it's a really good example.
Go ahead.
So Doug asked if it's similar to local Monero, then I dropped off, so I don't know if you explained it completely. But the difference is, and I think it's a crucial one. No, they don't do escrow, but the main difference is that. For example, if you want to buy wheat, I'll go back to this example. You don't want to, write on some local wheat.com or local something, that you want to buy or sell wheat, So how do you actually do it in practice? So what most people do is they would ask some of their friends if they know anyone who sells wheat, and this way of finding the merchant actually transfers reputation. So it's not, you don't get a random phone number, but you get a phone number from a friend who knows this merchant, and also the merchant would get an introduction, and the friend would vouch that you're not a cop and it's safe to deal. Problem with things like local Bitcoin, local Monero websites is that reputation is based on star rating. And this is very easy to cheat by agents or even by people. So if you create 10 accounts and you pretend that you made 100 deals among these 10 accounts, then you can easily build reputation. It's called a Sibyl attack, and then you could be seen on the website as trustworthy. But you just faked your way into good reputation. On local bitcoins, there were actually I think FBI agents who kind of lured people into selling them a lot of crypto, and they arrested them and so on. So the main difference is not escrow or no escrow, but the main difference is that it kind of mirrors this social network reputation of actual real relationships. So if I add an offer to this app, only people I personally know that I have them in the contact list. That's why I don't mind actually them using phone numbers, because this is an easy way of saying, okay, I probably know this person if I have their phone number. Or at least know who they are. It might be a delivery person or something, but I have some relationship to this person that I can see in my contact list. or we have a mutual connection, and if we have a mutual connection, the app allows us to ask the mutual connection for references. So this really kind of, as Elena said, it kind of comes back to the communist times, you know, when it was about, okay, who did you know? You know, are they would they snitch you to the communist police? Or if you don't know anyone personally, you know, do you know someone who knows someone? And this is how things worked, you know, and this reputation was kind of a currency, and it was very important. So so that's why I'm excited. I think they launched only in Czech and Slovakia, but it's only because they're beta testing, and they will open it up to all countries soon. The app is by default in English, I think. Pretty cool project. It is actually non-profit, by the way. I think non-profit organization, so they don't even take a fee or anything.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. There's no business model behind it. I think they should get some donations or something like that. They're considering.
Yeah. Exciting to hear about it. Yeah, you're right. I think you mentioned them in one of your books. How do you spell it?
VEXL. And they have a very nice video about privacy and Bitcoin. So if you do this, if you search this VEXL on YouTube, there's an animated video about 1.5 minutes. Probably not the first link, but among the first 3. And it's a video. I first seen it in a huge conference room when they launched it, and it gives me chills every time I see it. It's so well made. So so I highly recommend if you want to have a moment and look at it. It starts by a quote from Satoshi, which is I don't remember it exactly, but it says something like just be sure to get some just in case it takes off, or something like that. And then it kind of builds on the idea. So as it was intended, private, without KYC, uncensorable, and so on. So it's kind of explaining these cypherpunk values. So the people that created this project, they have a very good values, and they align with the cypherpunk philosophy quite well. So so very nice.
Yeah, exciting to see that it's actually gaining traction for those reasons you're talking about. Be cool to have them talk at or participate in Monerotopia in Mexico. That'd be very cool.
Oh, okay.
Maybe get them to come down.
Okay,
No problem.
I'll tell the CEO.
Awesome. Yeah, please do. Please have them reach out. Elena, thank you for the great comments. Evan, what's up?
So this organization VEXL, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the name of the app is VEXL, and I actually don't know what's the actual organization behind it. They've created a VEXL organization, but it's co-founded definitely by Satoshi Labs guys /
But it's a non-profit organization, so it's not even a company.
Yep.
It's like a non-profit. It's a special.
I'm honestly not sure what format it is. Their foundation or
Yeah. It's not foundation. It's like a citizen. I don't know.
But if let's just say the government tomorrow wakes up in the wrong way, let's just say, and they decide we're gonna shut this down. We don't like this anymore. It's closing. Can they do that?
They can, but it's open source. I'm not sure if they released it, but definitely they're releasing the code of the of the project, of the software. But the more problematic thing is if App Store and Google Play Store says that they're shutting it down. With Google, you could at least download an APK and install it yourself. But it would definitely hurt the network effect because not many people actually do that really. So I think this is a bigger threat. I think it can survive an attack of a state. It can move to a different state, or it's an open source project, so it's basically who submits it to the app stores. But the stores are a problem. That's one of the things I talk about also in the Cypherpunk visions as a problem currently. And I think I have an app in stores actually, and the speed how the rules are changing, what you have to comply with. Is crazy. Like I have a basic reader app for my courses where you can just go over the courses and download them offline so you can view the videos and the content. And I have to deal with so many things all the time. Now I cannot allow user registration from the app if I don't want to process payments through them and stuff like that. So this is the problem, and I think a solution for that is progressive web apps, or one of the solutions. Hopefully there will be more, but these are basically web pages that can work offline. You can add them to your and they look exactly like normal native apps.
Yeah, you're right. You see that gaining adoption? That method of accessing apps?
Okay. Sorry, the batteries on my headphones died. I'm back. I hope so. I'm not sure if this happens, but it's definitely a problem for the ecosystem, because when someone says, "Okay, we're banning Monero and we're banning Lightning because it's too anonymous, and we have to." Kick them out from the stores, because of course Apple will not and Google, they will not go punk and say, "Oh, never mind, it's illegal. We're allowing it." They will be the first to kick it out. So then we need an alternative.
Do you see potentially like a full wallet being able to be built on that type of technology?
Yes, definitely. It's not difficult. If you remember, Monero actually had some
My Monero.
My Monero. Yes, it was a web app, and it's very easy actually to turn it into progressive web app. It's just a little bit newer technology. It can do something on the background. It can receive push notifications. So it just adds features. So if something can be a web page, then PWA has just a little bit more options, but it's basically the same philosophy. The user interface can be more native feel. There are not many of them. So the most famous progressive web app is probably Pornhub, because porn is not allowed in the stores. So Pornhub had to actually build it on this technology if they wanted to have an app. And I think the other famous one is Twitter Lite, which is a Twitter client that is not an app from the App Store, and it's actually made by Twitter.
But you think it could be done in a way where your crypto keys can be stored on your phone, on your device?
Yes, it allows local storage, definitely.
So are there any wallets like this yet, or we just haven't seen it yet?
I think I've seen some. I haven't played with them. When I did a Twitter thread on PWAs, and someone sent me a wallet It was of some of these altcoins that are for like domain names and stuff like that, and they have built this. I haven't tried it yet, but definitely it can be done. I don't see any problem. It can even access camera for reading QR codes. So yeah, definitely. The only thing that it doesn't do that can be a little bit of a problem is on Apple devices. They don't have an API for NFCs, but on Google, even NFC payments could work this way.
Very cool. Very cool. Anybody else want to jump up and ask Juraj a question? Anybody? Just request. Go for it. Don't be shy. Juraj, what are the chances you think we see you down at Monerotopia?
I hope very high. I just hope I will not be with exactly this time in Asia, but because we are planning some trip to Asia with the family. But if not, I will try to make it. It's very high on my bucket list to go and experience it. So I'll try to make it work.
Awesome, man. Yeah, anything we could do to help encourage you, please let me know. Yeah, that goes to anybody listening in the crowd. Go to monerotopia.com. We're selling tickets to the conference. But if you want to participate in any way, you want to be a speaker, you want to be a vendor, you want to come talk about some idea or concept that you think relates to the topic of digital cash, please reach out. monerotopia@protonmail.com. You can send me an email. If you want to come down to the conference and for some reason you can't afford the ticket, please reach out. I'll help you figure that out. We're not. The idea is to get as many people down there that are truly interested in these concepts and these ideals. So whatever we could do, you can reach out, send me a DM. But we do keep the ticket prices pretty low. But even in those instances, please reach out. We'll make it happen. Juraj, man, I think that's it. We'll close it out. Thank you so much for taking all your time.
Thank you for having me again. It was fun, and thanks for all the questions from both you and the audience. I had a great time. Thanks.
Awesome, man. Greatly appreciate it. Guys, check out his book. Check out Juraj's book. Follow him on Twitter. And yeah, we do these shows every week. Just follow me, Douglas Tuman, or at Monero Talk for the next Monero interview. All right, thanks guys. Have a good one. Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode. We release new episodes every week. You can find and subscribe to our show on YouTube, Odyssey, iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Go to monerotalk.live to subscribe for a full list of places where you can watch and listen. If you want to interact with us, guests, or other podcast listeners, you can follow us on Twitter. And please leave us a review on iTunes. It helps people find the show, and we are always happy to read them. So thanks so much, and we look forward to being back next week.